What's rock bottom?
It's death. I mean, in all honesty,
Yeah, like what's rock bottom? You know, when my daughter was getting gang raped in a porta potty, was that rock bottom? Or was it 4 or 5 months later when she was half dead from a blood infection?
welcome to the Do What You Can Live With podcast. I'm Brandy Mack. My guest today buried her child. And before that, she buried her child 30 times in her mind, because that's what you do when your child is on the streets. An active addiction. You rehearse the worst so it won't destroy you. I know I did. Melissa Ledesma lost her daughter in 2023 to a cocaine overdose. And Melissa will tell you that even going on 3 years later, when she gets a phone call from a Chicago number, her heart still drops. And she has those seconds of thinking, is it her daughter Angel calling her? That's grief. That's the part that a lot of people struggle to talk about openly. Today, we're going to talk about Angel, who she was before the addiction, who she was during it, and who her mother is becoming after her loss. We're going to talk about the autopsy report that shocked Melissa, because Angel didn't die from a fentanyl overdose. She didn't even have an opioid in her system. You see, Melissa doesn't perform her pain. She just tells the truth. So stay with me and let's get into the episode. Hey, before we get into this, I just want to start out by saying thank you. Thank you for your support on social media, by listening to this podcast, and thank you for just being a part of this community. If this podcast has helped you feel in any way less alone, feel seen, if you could please like, subscribe, it would mean everything, because every time you do that, it's going to push it out even further so that other people who may be struggling with the same feelings and emotions you are, it'll give them the opportunity to find something that they can connect with and feel less alone. And to every person that has left a review on the podcast, thank you, because that helps more than you know. If you have the time and you like what you're listening to, please don't hesitate to do so, because it really does make a difference. It helps other families find us, and honestly, it means the world to me. Okay, now that the housekeeping is done, welcome everyone to the Do What You Can Live With podcast. I'm Brandy Mack, and I have the wonderful Princess Melissa, who I absolutely adore. Those who don't know, Melissa, she is a mom, but she was a mom who also had gotten on social media. And what year did you get on? Do you think? Do you remember when you
I
started
think it was
sharing?
in 2022.
2022? Okay.
2022.
So 2022, she had gotten on social media and started sharing her journey of what it's like being a mom loving someone struggling with addiction, her daughter Angel. Unfortunately, her daughter Angel did lose her life in 2023 to an overdose, but it's not a fentanyl overdose. And that's something Melissa and I are going to get into a little more and talk about, because there's a lot of misconceptions surrounding overdose. And a lot of people just automatically think of fentanyl, but it can definitely happen with stimulants also. She has continued to share, and it's been, I know, a completely different journey with the sharing that she has done since losing her daughter. But yeah, so how are you doing today, Melissa? Thank you for coming. I'm just so
Hey,
happy you're
Brandy.
doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for asking me. I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. We're going on 3 years, so it's crazy to even say that, but I'm a lot better today where I'm at than I was, 2.5 years ago. So it's still definitely a process.
No, I can imagine. That's the one thing is, I know, because we've talked, like Melissa and I, we do talk, and we actually went to the Jelly Roll concert. She came to Florida a few months after Angel had passed, and we got to finally meet in
Ugh,
person.
I need to go back
And
to Florida.
it's a little cold right now. I'm curious to hear more of where you are mentally, because I know then, I remember you telling me, I'll just never forget it, when we were sitting before my husband decided to get naked on live and start changing his clothes in the hotel when we had the cameras set up. That's a whole nother story. But
Oh,
you
that was
had told
great.
you had said, I remember that you're like, people think it, like, mourning the living how you think you have it in your mind, how you would be prepared, how you would feel if you actually did lose them, and you're like, "It's nothing like that." And it's,
Absolutely.
and that just and I'm like, well, and my heart, it just, it makes me really emotional because I owe a lot of the transition I made to you an Angel's story also, because I just remember you telling me, "Brandy, life's too short, you never know," and to start talking to Brooke again. And when I had taken that step back and your words mean so much to me.
Oh, thank you for that. And it's so true. I mean, it's true because I think that when you're a parent in this situation and you're dealing with
Mhm,
substance use on this level, we think about what's going to happen if our child dies, right?
mhm.
How do you not? Because let's be honest, a lot of times we're one step away from death in these situations. You know what I mean? And so I think that I know for myself, I've thought about it all the time. I had buried my daughter 30 times over before I actually buried her. And we think that we are prepared, but we're not. No, we're just truly not, because even when it happened, it was like such a shock to my system, like such a shock. And when I say shock, I mean I'm pretty sure I stayed like in shock for at least 6 to 8 months. And sometimes I still think that I'm in shock because it's like the numbness has never quite went away. It's like a weird feeling. You just kind of go through life, but it's still like I still get that, oh God, she's never coming back feeling. You know what I mean? And we're almost 3 years in.
Do you feel like, when the phone rings, do you still wonder, "Is it her calling?" Does that still happen for you?
Oh god, yeah, it's with Chicago numbers. It to this day, that still happens where my heart literally stops, and I'm like and for a second, I'm like, "Oh," and then I realize, I'm like and then it passes. But yeah, that's still very, very much there. And sometimes I think on some level, I have managed to kinda convince myself that she's just out on the streets. 'Cause, before she passed before she came into rehab, actually, because she was in rehab for 8 months before she actually passed away. She was out missing on the streets for a long time in
Mhm.
Chicago, you know? So, sometimes it's pretty easy to convince yourself that, "No, she's just out on the streets, she'll be back."
As when it comes to Angel, I wanna give you the opportunity to share who she was, and what do you want people to know about her?
Angel was a goofy, goofy girl. She was very fun loving. She had such a great sense childlike, like a childlike sense of humor and demeanor. Her laugh was contagious. She was a troublemaker, for sure. She looked up to her little brother, Jason. Usually it's the little brother that looks up to the older ones, but she thought he was just cooler than white bread. Like she really liked him. She digged what he was doing. But she was a really kind soul who had a lot of really horrible things happen. You know, if there was ever a crack in life or in any realm of the imagination around Angel, Angel was, going to find the crack and she was going to fall through it, because it didn't just start with, drugs for Angel. It started with mental health issues,
Mhm.
which were inevitably stemming from childhood sexual trauma that no one really was aware of. That's neither here nor there. But, so there was things with her that were going on way, way beforehand. And before those things started happening, she was just like the happiest little kid. She was always this chubby little girl who had ADHD so bad, she was just not retaining anything in school. And once she got medicated around the second grade, her self esteem just like flourished because when she was medicated, like she did like a 180.
Mhm.
She went from like not retaining any information from like kindergarten up to that point to regaining all of that in half of a school year. And she like slimmed out from the medicine, which she liked. And she really just started flourishing then, and we had just moving at that time, actually, into a different area because she was getting bullied so bad in the school beforehand. She did much better in the school, and she met so many friends that she was hanging out with, and she would, gain a major love for animals during that time, and she would bring me home a lot of animals. She brought me home a stray, and then we named it Missy, which is so weird, right? Why? Like, what was the reason? But she was
Oh,
even back then, she would that's when I think of Angel, to be honest, I think of the little girl back then because I choose not to think of her when she struggled with the behavioral issues, which was inevitably stemming from trauma or, necessarily the drug addiction, but who she was as
mm,
a little girl. Because I think I often wonder, like, who that little girl would have become if all those cracks and things didn't end up happening, you know?
I can relate to that because Brooke went through kind of the same thing. There was a lot of mental health. And I remember, this is gonna sound horrible, but whatever, is I remember thinking my worst fear was, "I'm just gonna try to keep her off the stripper pole." Like, that's literally I'm like, "Keep her off the stripper pole," and, but then never imagined it would be go through addiction. It was just like, there's obviously
Right.
dad issues, there's these things, and those are things I think a lot of times too, I had wondered about was there some type of sexual assault that took place that I did not know about? And it's because, we had our issues and I had tons of trauma, but there was so much more just from a younger age that I'm just like, was there something going on? But that's one of those topics you
Yeah,
don't
like, what's going
push.
on? Yeah.
Like, I knew that the only person I ever allowed to keep my kids was my mom, because that was always a huge fear of mine. But when her and her sister were going to her dad's out of
Right.
state, I had no control over who was around. And so that was naturally, like,
Yeah.
kinda always wondering, yeah, mental illness, that's the thing that I think people don't talk enough about is really addiction and mental illness, how they do really intertwine and go together. One things I remember that I love when you
I
talked about,
mean, majorly.
yeah, is with Angel's sense of humor was how you did her funeral. What Angel had said that she would want, I'll let you tell the story, and you did it. You made sure it happened, and then you even put it on a shirt that I have.
And heads were a turning. Heads were a turning. I was sitting at the kitchen table and we were getting things together for her celebration of life, and I don't know what got said. My kids turned around to me and said, "Well, not that long ago, we were smoking in the basement with Angel, and she must have seen something come across her phone, like on Facebook." And she would put her head up and she goes, "When I die, don't be photoshopping me and no ghetto ass angel wings." And they, s- and no, and then she said, "Photoshop me with strippers and chicken wings or hot wings." And so when the kid said that, I just looked at him. I'm like, "Can you do that? Can you do that?" And my son's like, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Yeah, can you do that?" And he said, "I think I can try." I said, "Okay, try and do that." And then he accomplished it. I don't know how, but he did it. He was able to do it. He photoshopped her with all these female strippers and then these hot wings. So like a plate of hot wings. Just and we had that, like, it was so big, Brandy. It was so big. It was a poster, like the big poster styles. Yeah. And then we had a pastor there too. And I warned them ahead of time. Pastor was also very mainly Spanish, first language Spanish. So I wasn't sure how much they actually understood when I was trying to explain to them what they were going to see. I'm like, "Lord, please forgive me."
Well, the photo said it all. You can't you could you that surely they understood that. I just thought that was great because you honored her personality, I feel like,
Yeah, that's
through that.
exactly who she was. And yeah, at the end of the day, I just wanted to be true to who she was. The heads were turning. You should have seen the looks on these people and my daughter's in-laws. They were just mortified, mortified.
Is there something that you remember about Angel that still makes you laugh when you think about it?
So many things, but one thing was, and this was right before she passed away, she was always going like this to my granddaughter Camila, and she taught her how to do it. Money, 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 money. So Camila was just going around everywhere going, money, 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 every
Like,
time she'd go up to anybody. So many things, but that's definitely one of the things that sticks out to me.
and going into, because how many other kids do you have?
I have 4 altogether, so 3
4
other
altogether.
kids.
How
Yes.
did Angel's addiction, do you think it impacted them as far as when it came to you and everything you were doing for her? Do you feel like it impacted your relationship with them in a negative way?
Mm, well, they used to think that I was doing too much. It just depended on, like, kind of what was going on. In the beginning, my oldest daughter, Bridget, she was the one who kind of really had to, like, say something to me a couple times, like, "What are you doing? You're giving her money, you're paying for her addiction." As, like, before I wanted to really believe, like, there was this problem going on. She'd get on my ass about it, and my youngest, Jason, had the most problem with it. He's the baby, and he's always had a strained relationship with her. And he had a huge issue, me dropping everything at the drop of a dime, going wherever I gotta go to go pick her up, missing work for it, spending money on it. Usually it costed couple $100 at the least. There's missed work, because they're sending you on like a freaking scavenger hunt to go rescue her from wherever she needs me to pick her up. It's never something easy like, "Oh, here, come to da 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 da." It just never is. Okay. It's always like the craziest thing that you got to do. And he used to get so mad. And so did the other two, but I'd say the youngest one most of all. And I would just tell them all the same thing. I would do the same thing if it was you. Like, if it was you, I would be doing the same exact thing. When I would go pick her up and then she'd come back, like the way she looked, I would remember so often. And again, my son being my youngest son, we'd be in the car and I'd see her and I'd realize what I was dealing with. And I'd shoot him a look and tell him, "I swear to God, you say one fucking word," because she looked like you would imagine somebody being homeless for 6+ months without the ability to use hygiene items would look and smell, you know what I mean? And I knew how she was being treated out in the world on a daily basis because of that. And I didn't want her to feel that when she came home, you know what I mean? Which was hard because, teenagers they're assholes, you know what I mean? And he's already pissed off about the situation. So it was a hard thing to kind of control. But that's about as far as it got, I would say. Just them being very upset about it. My daughter was pregnant this last time with Angel when she went into rehab. My daughter was pregnant with Koa. And I'll tell you, that's what was a big difference and a big dynamic. She actually had come to me and said, "I need you to stop updating me about Angel. I can't take it anymore. It's so stressful. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear anything to do with her anymore." I said, "Okay," because she was pregnant. And then Angel ended up dying, not long, a couple months after Bridget. I think Bridget had the baby 2 months after she died. And I know Bridget has a lot of regrets when it came to that because, she no longer got updated. Like, okay, I won't tell you anything. So I didn't. I no longer even spoke her name about it. So I know she had some regrets. That was a strained relationship too. I mean, more often than not, Bridget would walk into my house and not even acknowledge that Angel was sitting there, And Jason wasn't very nice to her before she died, to be honest either. Um, Aiden was always very close to her, so obviously with that, it was a lot nicer, in the situation. But the other two, to be honest, yeah, it was very strained for them. So I think it affected their dynamic more than it affected mine. Do you know what if that makes sense? More than
Yeah,
it affected their relationship with me.
it does. Did Angel ever talk to you about how the dynamic between her and her siblings, how it made her feel?
No, she never talked about it, and but I knew it, like, really bothered her. Even, like, for instance, right before she died with Jason, with my youngest. And that being said, like, their history goes back a while. He also had every reason, drug addiction aside, to kind of feel the way he did. You know what I mean? Like, when she had mental health issues, he was her target. a lot of the times. He got the brunt of her. So they had their own issues prior to all of this, was just like the icing on the cake, I guess.
Yeah,
But,
no, I
like,
get that.
she really looked up to him, that being said, and, like, before she passed away, she was constantly bothering him about his shoes. He has, like, so many gym shoes, like Jordans. And she wanted this pair and she wanted that pair. And he was like, stay out of my ass in the room. You're not giving me no damn shoes, blah, 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 blah. And I know that shit like really hurt her feelings. And I would say to him, like, why can't you just give her a pair of shoes? You know what I mean? Like, you have like 13 pairs of shoes there, dude. Like, she has nothing. Like, can't you just give her a pair of shoes? And he was like, "Why would I do that? So she can go sell it tomorrow and buy freaking heroin or crack? Yeah, okay." And that anger and that mentality, while hurtful to her and probably could have been said in a much better way, is also very valid at the same time. If I take the parent, me, out of it and look at it as in the sibling, you know what I mean? So, but I know that that hurt her feelings. It did. And I know when they would go hang out and not necessarily include her. It sounds so stupid because they're all like grown ass adults, Brandy. They're all grown as adults. But like when my son would have a couple of their friends over, I'd be like, you make sure you invite her to go out in the garage. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. Like they're freaking in third grade again. So
I did it. I've done it too, though. That's like with her
okay.
sister because Brooke just didn't really have any friends. And, except from that lifestyle when she would come back home and Gwen had all these friends. And I'm like, I'm not trying to force her on you, but can you just try to include her because she already feels so alone and like
Yeah,
unworthy?
that's it. She feels so lonely and unworthy. Exactly. Yeah. And like a lot
Yep.
of times I feel like they made her feel, to be honest, a little worse.
No, I agree because I just like Brooke in expressing how she said several times that without and her sister was not intentionally doing this, but it was ultimately Brooke's insecurities and feeling like her siblings hated her in the beginning when she came home, not believing because of all each relapse, but that she was like unworthy, inadequate. She treats me like I'm an idiot, and that's how, and she's embarrassed of me.
Like
And
a problem.
yeah, and it's so tough, and I know you can relate being the mom in that situation because it's like you love all of your kids, and it's you don't wanna pick sides in it, and
Yeah,
it's like each person, I felt like they're entitled to their feelings, but it still hurts me knowing any of them are hurting.
exactly.
It sucked. As far as I was gonna let you kinda share what led up to Angel's overdose, because as I had mentioned in the beginning, it was not related to fentanyl, and I know you were shocked by that, and I was shocked when you came out with the autopsy results. So, if you wanna share that, we can kinda dive into talking about stimulant use and that people can overdose from it. If you love someone struggling with addiction, you have probably been told to detach, stop enabling, to let them hit rock bottom. But something inside of you just didn't sit right. That's exactly how I felt. And that's why I wrote Do What You Can Live With. For those maybe who are new here, I'm a critical care nurse practitioner and a mom that has a daughter in recovery just a little over 2 years from IV fentanyl. And when we detach as loved ones, something I think we're missing is that addiction, shame, and isolation thrive. And families deserve better than to simply be called enablers or codependent. This is hard enough. The last thing families need is shame. And that is one thing as someone who has lived this, and now my daughter is in long term recovery, there is no shame in this book. The book is available on Amazon, and you simply search Do What You Can Live With, Brandy Mack, because I promise you, it won't be easy. But peace is possible, even when they're in active use. And as one who didn't think it was when I shifted to the idea of simply doing what you can live with that I found it.
Absolutely. So, Angel's drug of choice was actually cocaine, or not cocaine, crack and meth. Okay. So, but she was just debilitatingly addicted to heroin and fentanyl by default. I honestly had no doubts when she passed away that she had used heroin and obviously had fentanyl in it and overdose. But when it came back, she had actually no heroin, no fentanyl in her system. She had passed away from cocaine intoxication. So an angel didn't do cocaine, so it would have been used in the form of crack. And which I don't know what I was more shocked at the moment, that she didn't die from fentanyl and heroin, or that she managed to find a substance on the streets of the west side of Chicago that didn't have fentanyl in it. I was like, "What?" And I think I even said on the phone, like, there was no fentanyl in her system. And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay."
I know, because
But
it's you
yeah,
hardly hear of pure stuff at all anymore. You're just hearing everything has some fentanyl cut into it.
yeah, something, even if it's not fentanyl, you know what I mean? But so like that's the shocker number one. So, but
Were they able with that in the I don't I've never actually reviewed an autopsy report. Do they think she went into, like, a heart arrhythmia? Like, have they
yeah,
said?
it said respiratory distress. Basically, like her heart gave out, is from what I gathered from it. But I'm not a doctor or a nurse.
Yeah.
But I think it did say something about respiratory and her heart.
I actually pulled up some numbers because when I was texting you, I was looking for some data about people, how many people actually die from an overdose related to cocaine or any stimulant. And in 2023, there was almost 30,000 deaths, and that was with
Oh,
no
okay.
fentanyl in there. And
Oh,
yeah, with no
okay. So she
fentanyl.
was one of them because she was a 2023.
Yeah. Yep. So
So
that is not uncommon. And for those who don't know, I think is people who use stimulants, unless there's fentanyl in it, Narcan will not do anything for that. Just for those listening, that will only work on an opioid. And but in looking at it, what leads to the death is these situations is like the heart racing uncontrollably. They'll go into an arrhythmia. I know I had told you some of the hardest things that patients I've cared for have been they end up having an aneurysm rupture young. It's because their blood pressure gets so high,
it's so
and
scary.
it is, and it's catastrophic. I mean, those type of bleeds are catastrophic. But yeah, it's not uncommon for those listening that that can in fact happen.
And the crazy thing, the ironic thing of it is I know with everything in me from speaking about this with my daughter not long before she died, she 100% had the mindset that she would be fine using crack, that it wouldn't have fentanyl in it. She was confident. She was confident that she would be fine using crack, and it was the heroin, okay, that was like this huge problem. And that if she totally had that mindset, because I mean, I remember even making a video not long beforehand where I was like, how are we going to tell Angel that crack is whack and she just can't be going out and doing crack? Like, cause that's how she was talking. Like it was okay just to go out and do crack on a random fucking Tuesday because it's not gonna have fentanyl in it. And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" Like, no. I mean, mind you, she had just got out of rehab, or she was in rehab, but still. So I was like, no, what do you mean? We can't just go do crack." So, yeah, she really
I
had
always
the
love that term, crack is whack.
she tried to joke with her and, like, keep it, like, lighthearted. Like, when was selling the problems with Angel have been long and hard, honey. But when she was selling her Adderall in middle school, fun times, shout out Waldo. I walked into that principal's office, and I knew what I was coming there for when they told me when they called. And she was sitting at the desk, and I just looked at her, and I was like, "What's up, El Chapo?" Like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, God, you're like 11.
You knew it was gonna be a long road.
Yeah, I knew long before that. No, these are they are their daddy's children. I'm just kidding. They got quite a bit of dash of me in there too.
And I guess that kind of leads to another topic as far as you yourself are in recovery and you abused stimulants, right? That was your drug of choice?
Yeah, that's why it freaks me out a tad bit when we talk about brain bleeds and shit like that, because the things that could still be wrong up in here from my drug use really, really stay in my brain. Yeah, because I did used to use meth and cocaine. Yeah. I mean, God, if I just let myself think for too long about the things I did, like, it scares me to think the problems I might encounter from that as I age.
Well, what's interesting is I need to pull the information because I had seen some physicians talking about that prescribe like Adderall and for ADHD. And they were talking about a lot of people talk about the damage it does to the heart being on a stimulant. Cause I've been on a stimulant for over 20 years because of my ADD.
Wow.
And that's always been a fear of mine is like, how is it going to impact my heart having that higher heart rate? And they're really saying that people who take it like they're supposed to on a regular basis, that the evidence has shown it's not causing permanent long term issues. So we'll see. We're all going to die someday.
Yeah, that's true. Like the other day, I was sitting there thinking, like, bitch, you used to swallow the coffee filters that the meth was made in. So when you make it and you like filter it, however, I don't know, I was not the chemist, okay? I was just married to him. But they would have filters, a coffee filter was a coffee filter, and it had all of that stuff had to go through it. And we used to take that and swallow it.
Wow.
That's just crazy shit. If you think about it, that's like
Yeah.
what yeah,
You wanna
so to
know
be determined.
something that Brooke told me that her and her roommates used to do was they would have instant coffee in rehab. They would fucking snort instant coffee.
You know what? Valid though.
It's
After you
like,
be doing this shit, man, you need something.
it's really though, in looking at it as a whole, it's so fucked up when you look at everything, but when you think about it, it's like the whole thing of being in a recovery mindset. Are you in a mindset if you're in rehab snorting instant coffee?
No, I think we need to reevaluate several things.
Now all of a sudden rehabs are gonna be banning instant coffee.
Gosh,
Did
oh
I hear
yeah. Oh
this?
my God, don't take away their coffee. Please
They're gonna
don't do
they're
that.
gonna come out after me with their pitchforks.
Yeah, yeah, you bitch. Now they took away our caffeine. Well, it is a drug. It is a
It
drug,
is, it is.
technically.
It technically is, and, but how do you think your grief in the beginning of this when you first lost her, how has that evolved over the last 3 years to now?
I would say, well, at the beginning, I think my youngest son said it best when he was having a conversation with me about my sister, and he said, you were just a shell of yourself for so long. I was telling him I didn't know if I could do this with if I had little kids, like to grieve a death of a child and then to have little children to take care of that got to go to school and function and stuff like that. And he was right when I think about it. Like it's almost like you move through the emotion through the world, like you walk through life, but you're not really there. Does that make sense? Like you're going
Yeah.
through the motions, but you're not really there. Everything was kind of a fog. I think now I'm more in kind of an acceptance era, if that makes sense. The shock is still there, but it has worn off. It has worn off a lot. I've learned to live in the grief, if that makes sense. We all cope differently. And for me, that looks like working a lot and doing a lot. So I'm not perfect. I have not dealt with my grief in a lot of ways, I think I could say. I think it may look like I have, but the truth would be that I keep myself very, very, very busy. So, I was finding it hard to get out of bed and things like that. So I found if I kept myself busy, I don't have time to really think about things too much. And that's what I do. I work about 22 hours most days, on top of going to school and whatnot. But I've just tried really hard to take that grief and channel into something good. Like, kind of like, if we don't do something good with this, then it was all for nothing, right?
No, I know.
It's not, I don't want it to be all for nothing, so I'm just trying to make it for, I guess, just something, a little something. So I let that really push me into making other people that look like me feel seen. If does that make sense?
It does. Have you attended any, like, grief meetings or, like, child loss meetings at all through this?
I've tried to, but I just was very like uncomfortable for me. I just don't know if I'm there yet. I did one with my sister and it was great. It was a woman, you probably know her on TikTok, and she did this free grief journaling class via Zoom, and it was great. It was great, but like I don't know. And my sister had like the same problem, and it was for her. It was very new. I'm talking like second month, right? For me, we were going on like 2 years almost. But she would just do something to prompt you, and then you're supposed to write whatever comes to mind on the book. I literally could not make brain to pen to paper at all. And then when people would talk and like they would say like what they had on their page, which would be like so many words, like how the hell did you even compute all of that? But then it made sense. You know what I mean? Then it's like, okay, yeah, yeah. But like to do it, like it's like I tried it, I think 2 or 3 sessions, and like I could never even get one word on the paper. And I did notice in the group, they were people whose kids had been passed away, I would say 2 to 3 years at least longer than me or Jenny. So I don't know if that was it, but I've tried a couple other ones and I just don't like them. I don't know why. I mean, I have people reach out to me too on both platforms like, hey, we run this group, you want to come here. And I guess it's so different for me to sit there and talk about my grief on my phone when I'm looking at my phone and, I post it. And even to this day in my head, I'm just posting it to like the air. You know what I mean? Like, it's like in reality, y'all are not you, but you know what I mean? But like, y'all are not in my actual like life. Like, you don't, you know what I mean? So, like, in my head,
Yeah.
which I know how ridiculous that is, like, to me, it's so different than going in
But it
person and,
is
like, actually dealing with
it's
it.
it's true though. That's something I know I've shared just from how healing it was for me. Just video diarying basically is what I considered it, thought dumping and recording myself, and it was easy because I was just rambling, literally how I felt. And to me, that is journaling, right? Like it's like journaling,
Yeah,
but in real time and then just post uploading it and getting judged for everything I said. But but still it's like it's getting it off my chest. And even though it seems very intimate and private, and then millions are potentially seeing it, it's really crazy when you think about.
it
And
is, because there's so
it
many
is.
times where I'm like, "Oh my god, you saw that? Like, duh, Melissa." Like,
I know, it's like, "Oh, you did put it out there, my bad." And yeah, but it is different. And that's where I feel like, because Al-Anon was not for me. I don't care if other people go to Al-Anon, I know it's everywhere and it's accessible and not all meetings are created equal, but it wasn't for me and I didn't need it because I was healing simply by getting this all out in the open and then helping other people feel less alone in it and forming that community, you know?
and then you've got, like, so many other people, speaking about their experience too, and, like, sometimes it's a little overwhelming. Maybe one day.
You'll get there. You'll get there. So you were pretty open around the holidays, just kind of talking about how hard it was seeing other moms and whose kids found like long-term recovery, and you lost your daughter and the feelings that kind of went with that. And I know I had messaged with you privately about that. Do you want to talk about what that feels like, and because I think you can have both. I think you can celebrate and be happy and then even hold resentment, envy, and be angry about it.
Yeah, of course, and you're right. Both can be true at the same time. Both can exist with each other, right? But I think as just as humans in general, when that's not a feeling that we like to have within ourselves, right? So it is a difficult thing to talk about, I guess, and I'm not sure many people would like to talk about it, but it is the truth of the matter. I want everybody to win. I don't want anybody's child to end up in the situation my child did. But it is hard. It's a lot to swallow sometimes, especially as a content creator in this genre, on platforms. And then that's all you see all day. And a lot of times, like your daughter, she's doing great. Amber Boone's daughter, she's doing great. Jasmine, and we're all mutuals on there. So I see the content, and there's more to. I'm just naming the people that we know, right here. But and it's like you're so happy for them, and then there's this part of me that gets so sad because you just wonder where she would have been if she would have been able to maintain recovery, and that's a very, I guess, expected, emotion or thought to have. Although I'm so proud of all the people that are thriving in recovery, because that's what makes it a little bit for something for me, is to know that there are people out there surviving and taking care of their kids. Like Brooke and Jasmine, for example, are doing a phenomenal. It's amazing to watch, to be honest. It really is. It's amazing.
It is. I have seen, videos of Amber's daughter, Jasmine, and how good much she's thriving, and then seeing it on my own with Brooke, I never imagined, like, seriously, like, it just doesn't seem real that we're here 2 years later. Cause and just seeing that shift in her, like, that healing that has taken place, especially the 2-year mark, it was a major shift and growth. But it's hard because, for me, that's a lot of times I'll try to direct people to your page, is when people will come in my comments if I share a video and they're sharing how, their loved one died of an overdose and they put the date, and it's so hard for me to even know what to say other than "I am so sorry." You know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't know what your
Yeah.
pain is like. I don't wanna know what your pain is like, And sometimes I feel like all I can say is, "I am so sorry." And, you see the anger too, even in comments. Like, you'll have the people who will say that they lost their loved one, and then they almost leave kind of like a snarky or insulting comment in a way. And I usually don't respond at all just because they're entitled. I can't imagine what they're dealing with when it comes to those emotions. And I won't delete their
But
comment.
well, that's good, but I mean, are they entitled though? Coming from a parent who has lost a child, though, are they entitled? Because we can't make you know, we're doing our children a disservice if we make their death allow us to become somebody that we are not, or that we wouldn't want to be, right? So I don't think that people that look like me should be coming into people's whose children are thriving in recoveries comments, and being snarky about it, like angry. You have the right to be angry, but and would your kid want you to do that? You know what I mean? When you can take the situation, you can totally do something completely opposite with it. It just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
don't
I
like
get a
that.
lot of those, and you see those, and it always makes me, like, happy, though, is I'll get the ones who'll be like, "I lost my daughter, I lost my son," and they'll be like, "You have no idea how happy it makes me feel to see your daughter doing so well," and that just it means a lot, It's
Yeah, right? Because isn't that, I
and
forget the saying exactly how it goes, but there's a saying something like we have to lose some in order for others to recover, and I'm totally butchering it. It's an actual saying, but there's so much truth in it. It's much nicer than than what I just told you, but that's the gist of it. And there's so much truth in that. You know what I mean?
What's the most outrageous comment that you've gotten? And then I wanna talk about the troll that has manners.
The most outrageous I've gotten so many. I don't know. I get so many of them. Like you enabled your daughter's death. I get that a lot because I bought her the heroin for so she couldn't be so she wouldn't feel the withdrawals until she could get it. So glad I did. She was in rehab for 8 months. I got 8 months back of her life. If I hadn't have done that, God only knows how she would have passed away, but she probably would have passed away a lot sooner than what she actually did, and she wouldn't have been anywhere near us. But, I think those are the most wild comments I get are now that she's gone. People are okay with coming into my comments and saying the most wild things. You deserve it. Like, "You deserve to have a dead child. Way to go, mom." It's honestly, it happens a lot. The more
And listen,
the more
we laugh
traction a
at
video
this.
gets, the more people come in.
It's true, and we laugh about this, and I know it's so fucked up, you guys listening, okay? But it's some of the shit all of us have heard. Like, we
I'm trying
joke
so
about.
hard to like think of exact ones, and I'm like, there's so many. I cannot. Like they're all around the same thing. Like you're a horrible human being. I killed my daughter, and me and her used to freaking sling dope together, basically.
And all of us really, we all of our presence was on TikTok for so many years, and now TikTok sucks. But so we've kind of shifted over to Facebook, and the trolls just are nowhere near as fun. And Melissa had someone who was trolling her comments and then messaged her and was basically apologizing and having a conversation and calling themselves a troll. It was the oddest thing.
It was so weird, dude. We're not gonna say his name because
No,
because he
no.
has actually sent me more messages since then. So I'll tell you about his other messages he sent. But he was basically like, firstly, he started off the conversation asking if I've ever even dealt with addiction myself at all whatsoever. And I was like, hi, yes, I'm sober 20 years. I was addicted to cocaine and meth. And then I just went into great detail because, bitch, not today. Then he comes back and he's like, I'm a troll. Do you know what a troll is? I troll the comments. He's like, I don't want you to feel bad. Like when I was talking about your weight on that one, it's a troll. I do that for recovery and on the internet. I was like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, I know what a troll is. I've never had one message me and apologize and tell me that they're a troll. It was the wildest thing. And then a couple days ago, he messages me again and asks me if I can share a couple of his recovery reels. Meanwhile, he's on my videos stalking, being a nasty troll on my videos, telling me I enabled my daughter's death and da da da.
What are some things you think, looking back now 3 years later, that you wish you had maybe done differently through Angel's struggles?
Well, honestly, I wish I would have changed my thought process on harm reduction and MAT. I wasn't always pro MAT or harm reduction. I kind of had that mindset of you're just trading one high for a legal high. And thank God I changed that when I did, but I wish I would have changed that mindset sooner. A lot of times, majority of the time, my fear looked like anger.
That's how mine
It
was.
took me a long time. Yeah, and it took me a long time to kind of realize that that's what I was doing, and I nailed for the most part, I was able to reel that in, but again, I wish I would have done that sooner. I wish I would have when I let Angel come home and use the heroin until she could get into detox, I wish I would have done that sooner. She had been asking me She'd been telling me that's the only way she would come home for a long time when I would be able to find her out on the streets. And I wish I would have done that a lot sooner because I'm not sure, maybe we would have been in a different situation had I done that sooner. I did the best I could. And while I know I did really well, I could have also done better. And I wish I had been maybe a little bit more kind and softer spoken with her not get so frustrated because I would get frustrated even when she was in rehab for 8 months. And I'm now looking back, I can see clearer than I could when I was in it why I was getting so frustrated. The reason is because, first of all, she wasn't ready for what the recovery that she was doing. And a lot of it was done for me. Most of it was being done for me. So that being said, there was a lot of me pushing and a lot of her pushing back, which is obviously going to result in frustration. But yeah, it's just those things because at the end of the day, you know, life is short. So either we can lead with love and meet people where they're at, do whatever we can do because that's what we're dealing with right now and they're here right now. Worst case scenario, you show them a little love before they die. That's the way I look at it. So I just wish I would have done all of that stuff a little sooner.
I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know I can. In that it's really easy for me to block people out from my life, like put a wall up and out of sight, out of mind. I'm not going to deal with this shit because I have done that with people in my life, never my children, because, your children, they're your children kind of forever and you birthed them. But when I think about tough love. And I know you've heard a lot of these stories too from all the people I'm sure who've contacted you and in comments, and how some of these families and everyone's situation is different. But I think there's always a way to show up and show love, even if it means you can only send a text that says I love you because the situation is so toxic. But people like literally they are dead to them. That is how they act towards their kids. Their kids are dead to them. No meeting basic human needs. No, even when they go to treatment, like won't help them try to find treatment. Nothing. They are dead to them. And, it hurts me when I hear the stories from people who have even several years of recovery and their family still has nothing to do with them, and it hurts them. It's hard, like doing what you were doing what I was doing, to be in the thick of it and seeing them in those states and caring for them. Yeah, it fucking sucks. It is hard. I think personally they can deny this. I think it's easier to just put a wall up, block it and push it out of sight, out of mind, and not be exposed. But I think I personally feel that it's really doing a disservice to your loved one who is in active addiction, because it just pushes them further into it, because say addiction thrives on shame and isolation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I like that's when I talk about tough love too. I always like to stress that even though I use tough love, I did not utilize society's version of tough love. I utilized more of like a version of my own tough love.
Same.
I cannot reckon or understand or wrap my head around completely disowning your child or even on any level, whether it's during active use, after active use, while in recovery, after recovery has been maintained. It sounds absolutely ignorant to me that anybody could think that that works. I mean, isolation aids in death. It's evidence based, that we have to meet people. We would never suggest doing this to somebody who has another mental illness like schizophrenia. Okay. Would you be like, I'm disowning you, never going to have anything to do with you again? Call me in 10 years when you no longer have this. You know what you mean?
And I think mental illness is the closest to addiction that you can compare to, because chaos does go with mental illness, but they do not push that.
I mean, one can even argue that addiction could be the symptom of a mental illness, you know?
Yep,
But
exactly.
yeah, I never did do that. And I don't, it's heartbreaking when you hear people that have that. And so many people, I get a lot of comments that say, I feel like I would have got sober a lot sooner if my mom had approached it the way you do. And
I
they
get the
say that
same.
to me. And I try to always tell, like, I'm not a perfect mom by any means, but I never left her alone to deal with her substance use at all, and that they absolutely deserve better. And we would never do that to our kids in any other situation. I don't understand why we would not. And how the hell can you go to sleep at night? You know how much torture, and I'm sure you can relate, Brandy, how much freaking torture it was knowing my daughter was sleeping homeless on the streets in these abandoned houses, knowing the things like knowing, seeing these places with my own eyes, seeing the people in them with my own eyes, knowing the things that were happening to my daughter on a daily basis, knowing that she was willingly putting herself in these situations because she was so addicted to a substance. I could not fathom, like, being knowing all of that and being, like, so shut off to that, that you dehumanize them completely, that you don't even care, and you can still go to bed every night is actually concerning. It's so scary. 'Cause that shit I mean, that shit keeps me up to this day.
And it comes back though to that mindset of they have to hit rock bottom. It's like, well, if they do those awful things, it's just gonna make them hit rock bottom. It's like, but are you really aware of what they're doing? Are
Well,
you
what's rock
aware?
bottom?
Exactly. It's death. I mean, in all honesty, it is, I think,
Yeah, like, what's rock bottom? You know, when my daughter was getting gang raped in a porta potty, was that rock bottom? Or was it 4 or 5 months later when she was, half dead from a blood infection? You know what I mean? Like, exactly what is rock bottom? What are we gonna wait for it to happen?
yeah, no, and I completely
Death.
agree with that. I mean, people do not understand. It is horrible things that happen to them out on the streets. Horrible things.
No, a lot of people are completely blind to it.
Yeah, it's not just them going without food and looking for drugs. And that's the thing is there's a lot of people who are also oblivious and to the fact of when it comes to the whole thing with people should be charged with what murder if they sell a dose of fentanyl that someone overdoses from. I hate to break it to you. It's your own kids selling dope, man, on the streets. You're not that's what people are not
Yeah,
understanding.
exactly. Yeah. No.
I'm sure Angel sold dope.
Exactly. You
My
think
daughter
that your
sold
big El
dope.
Chapo is out here selling your
Yeah,
freaking
no.
$20 bag of freaking
Nope.
heroin?
Nope.
Yeah. My daughter has
It's a
sold many, many bags, I'm sure.
same, same. No,
I mean, if
and
she
that's
could
the
sell
thing.
you her left foot, she will. So I'm sure.
But there are so many moms who they don't put those 2 together at all. Because I had someone come in my comments or no, message me privately and share that how they got help get those laws into place in Texas. I'm just me, and I said, I don't know how I feel about that except that you do realize it's our kids who are selling. It's never gonna be the distributors that go to jail, like, as far as the big players.
No.
They're gonna pay
Yeah,
their
you're
way
never going to
out.
get the big fish.
No. So drugs will continue to circulate either way because 'cause they'll just find someone else that they can use. That's where I completely do disagree with these laws when it comes to that. It's
No, I
tough.
agree with that. It's our own kids that would have gone down just the same. And that goes, again, like we can't let our anger and our bitterness over the situation affect
And
how
as we know,
reality
there's
really
nothing
is.
like the anger of mothers, you know? Like, go and piss off some moms, piss off s
Amen. Can do
you
beautiful
know?
things, honey.
You can oh,
Mhm.
yeah, our
Piss off a
mouths, man.
mom.
We piss off a mom, shit will
Yeah,
get
fuck around
done.
and find out, right?
So, what are you in school for now? What degree?
Right now, I'm working towards my CADC.
Oh, okay,
So
that's to
I'm
go
in
because you're
an
pure okay.
accelerated program. So I'll leave with an associate's degree and the ability to test for the CADC immediately. But then I'm going to continue on until I get my master's because I would like to be a licensed therapist. So
Yes,
after I finish this program, I would have about 4 more years. It's really not that long.
it'll go by fast, trust me. It would. Are you
Yeah, it's like
thinking
5 total.
Yep. Are you thinking social work, masters in social work? Because that's where a lot of people
Yes.
go that they get that. And because you can do so much. I didn't realize how much you could do with a social work
Yeah, you can. You can
master's.
do so much with it. And the CADC, I don't even know if I'll even work with it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I just want the credentials. I will probably stay at my job because I have the ability to do my schoolwork while I'm at work. And that's like a
That's a
huge
good deal.
advantage.
Yeah, that's a good
Huge
deal.
advantage.
Yep.
So I think
I
I'm going to
love
stay,
that.
employment wise so I can finish out my schooling and get it done like that.
I think that's awesome, and I think you'll be really good at it. I mean,
Yeah.
just you know what you've been through, and so I'm really excited for you for that, and it'll
Thank
fly by.
you.
It feels like it'll take forever, but it'll fly by. So I have a couple of questions, and then we can wrap this up. What is something that brings you so much joy you can feel yourself light up?
By far, my grandchildren.
I love.
By far. Like the most absolute, both of my grandchildren, but me and Camila have an extreme special bond. And just, I cannot even explain to you the amount of joy that those two human beings bring to me. It's, they're amazing, 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 amazing little humans.
It's so
I love
different,
them.
right? Being a grandmother. It
Yes.
is there is
My
something
God.
so special about it.
It's so
I
special
love it
about
too.
him. I will say it. I stand 10 toes down on the type of grandmother I am to my grandchildren is a direct reflection on the type of parent I wish I would have been capable of being to my own children. Yeah,
That is
it's a,
something
I love it.
Steffi and I talked about on the phone last night. We talked about grandchildren and said just it's kind of like you do. It's a direct reflection of the kind of mom you wanted to be, but wasn't able to be at that time. You get to provide. And it sucks because you wish that you could have been that mom for your kids. And so I do. It's just very special. It's a very special relationship. How do you find strength to support other mothers like her after the loss of your daughter? It seems like a superhuman strength to me.
That's actually a really good question, Steffi.
It
And that's
is.
so sweet. To be honest, I think the most honest answer is I actually get a lot of my strength from the other parents that are finding help or guidance through me. I'm actually getting what they are seeking out from them, if that makes sense. Doing
It
that
does.
has been more therapeutic than anything ever could. Because I know what's best for me, but we always want what's best for somebody else that's in front of us, right?
Mhm.
So being that for them in turn gives it back to me from them, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It
I would
does. I
be if
think
I
that's
didn't have these platforms, I would be a disaster of a mess, to be honest. Because how would I be able to help other people? Do you know what I mean? How would that it's a coping skill, right? I'm using it as a coping mechanism, as a coping skill. So if these things didn't exist, everything happens for a reason. God knows what he's doing, or he puts everything in place for reasons that are unknown to us until they are put in front of us. And if this wasn't here as an avenue for me to be able to help other people that look like me or look like my daughter, I don't know what would happen. What would I focus on? Where would Melissa be right now in this mess?
you'd be stuck in your head. That's where you'd be. And I there's so no, I get that because that's where I've had to learn who the hell I am through this and not like chaos. It was always chaos. It was what's next? When's she gonna show up next? When's and trying to find
My
detox,
life is
rehab.
so quiet. It's unbelievable.
Are you enjoying it or do you hate
It's
it now?
insane. Now I enjoy it. At first, I hated it. It was a lot to
Yeah.
get used to when there's no one. Look, it was like living in an episode of like I don't know Chicago PD every day. You know what I mean? Like literally, just the things that happen in this lifestyle are crazy. So when she passed away, first of all, now nobody needs nothing from me, and everything's just so quiet. There's no problem. There's no fire to put out. So yeah, it was a lot to deal with. Now I love it. Now it's very quiet. I like my peace. Everything. I got used to the quiet house, the phone not ringing, not having to worry about certain things. But it was an adjustment. It took a while.
And I guess
It took
last
a
and
while. Took a while.
but not least, what advice would you give to other grieving moms that maybe just lost their loved one?
To show yourself as much grace and kindness as humanly possible. Take the time to really take a step back for a while. For instance, I went back to work 2 months after my daughter had passed away. If you have the ability to not do that, I think that is extremely important for a parent that just lost their child to stay home for as long as humanly possible and to become very comfortable in speaking about your kid that is not there anymore because a lot of people are going to want you not to even if they don't say it. It's going to be a very undertone of uncomfortableness when you do and keep speaking about them because there's a saying somewhere out there, and I'm not William Shakespeare, so I'm gonna chop it all up. But there's a saying that says something along the lines of, "We're not truly dead until the last time our name was spoken." And that would be my advice. Be kind, show
That's
yourself some
deep.
grace, and speak often about the child.
I love that. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. I want to schedule one with, I think, the four of us on. I can only imagine how that'll go.
Oh, that'd be
And see,
fun.
that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are we
no,
getting
is there any?
tattoos?
Oh, that's what Jen mentioned. I know. For those who don't know, we're doing a girls' trip. And, we're going out to Seattle area and staying for several days, and Melissa and I have met in person before, but the other 2 we haven't met, so I'm super excited, and we all text often, and these are other moms on social media. But, Melissa, before you go, where can people find you?
On TikTok, I am the.real.melissa, and on Facebook, I am Melissa Ledesma.
And I will put those in, like, the bio area of this, so you'll be able to find her the links to it. But no, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you, and, is there anything else you wanna add? Are you good?
I think I'm good. Thank you for having me. It was fun chit
Of
chatting.
course.